we're going to look at how to do systems of equations based on kind of word questions, right? Where you have a little more extra information. You have to complete or create your own equation, and then from there, use any of the strategies from last week that you want to use, whether that's substitution, elimination, or just graphing them, right? And finding where the two things intersect, right? That's always just fine. So we're going to take a look at one example. I'm going to show you those three ways. You can use any one of them. It doesn't make a difference to me as long as you're going through and working that stuff out. So the example we're going to go over here, and just got some tickets. There's 227 total for a baseball game. Adult tickets were $5. Student tickets are $2. How many of each type were sold if the sales totaled $574? So I've put this kind of structure on each question just to help you guys so you can like structure your thoughts, how you're going to put those down, right? First thing we usually want to do is what is our unknown stuff? What are going to be our variables? What are you going to have them stand for? You can use X's, Y's, that was a lot in the assignments, but you can use any letters you want as long as you're consistent about how those letters look. So the things that we don't know here is I don't know how many adult tickets there are. I don't know how many student tickets there are. So I'm going to have X be my student tickets. So I'm just going to type that in there, and I'm going to have Y be my adult tickets, right? It doesn't really matter as long as we have that consistent, that I know what they're standing for. And now we're going to make our equations. We need to know what we're basing our equations on. So my first equation, I'm going to base that probably on the total number of tickets, right? The total number of tickets sold. So I'm going to call that total number. So in here, the information we have about the total number of tickets, we really only have this information, right? That's the only information about our total. I'm going to highlight that in red so that I know that that's about my red equation, that's going to be my total number of tickets sold. So in there, I know that if we add up all the stuff together, the student tickets plus the adult tickets, I have to get 227, right? That's where that piece of information came from. And then the other information that I have in here is about my money, right? That's what this one's going to come from. And the information in there, we have $5 for adult tickets, right? There's a little bit of blue information about blue stuff. Student tickets are $2, right? I have that one. I'm going to highlight that. And that totaled $574 in the money, right? That's where we have that. So in here, I have $5 per adult ticket. So that's 5Y, right? And then I have $2 per student ticket. So actually, I'm going to flip this order a little bit. $2 per student ticket and then $5 per adult so that these are lined up right away. And then that's equal to $574. And now I have my two equations, and then you can go forward and solve these however you want to. And I'm just going to show those in a few different ways, right? So I'm going to actually highlight these two things so I don't have to retype them. I'm just going to copy these. You could also push Control C, and I'm just going to go on to a new page and paste those things down. So option one here, we could use substitution, right? On here, I'm going to move this over. And underneath here, maybe I solve this top one for Y, right? Maybe I do that. Maybe I subtract that X over to this side, and then you can substitute, right? That would be perfectly fine here. So in this one here, I'm going to take my blue equation. So let me take just this stuff, right? So I'm going to take my blue equation here, and in there, we're going to replace that with this red value. So the Y stuff again, substitute if this is making sense to you and you want to go ahead and start the equation, or start the assignment, excuse me, you can go ahead and do that. Here, I'm just going to put that in red so I know that that's where that one came from. Whoops. Let's maybe not make that. We will make that guy actually red. Let's do that instead. So there's that one. And then we just go through and solve. Distribute the 5. And then we go through that one here. So we go in, we got 2x plus 5 times 270. I got to grab my calculator again. So I take 5 times 227. That's 1135 minus 5x equals 574. And then from there, I could subtract this 1135 over. So I'll subtract that from 574, and we will get a certain amount. So here we'd have put the 2x and the negative 5x together. That's negative 3x. And then if we subtract that over, we got negative 561, right? Which we could divide by negative 3, and I can get that that is 187. So they sold 187 tickets for X, which for me were the student tickets. They sold 187 student tickets, and then I could figure out the adult tickets by taking that away from 227, right? So that's one option, right? I can use substitution. That's the option that we did there, right? Let's just move that down a little bit. And we'll call this one the substitution option, right? Okay, you can do that. That's perfect. If that makes sense to you and you want to use the substitution option, you completely can, right? A different option that we have, okay, so let's make I'm going to make a new, whoops, let's go down here. So again, if you want to click on and make more space, you can always do that so that you have more space to work in there. Next option here that we're going to go ahead and do, let me take the same equations again. I want to take those same things here. And maybe I want to do elimination, right? Maybe that's what I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead here, just copy these over this way, and I'm going to copy them a couple times actually. Let's take this and say, okay, maybe I want to, eliminate the y values, right? Maybe I want to do that, right? So I'm going to take this top equation then times 5, right? And this bottom equation times 1, right? So that we, don't have to do too much there. We're just going to take it times 5 and times 1. And what that leads us to, this top one, if we take everything times 5, there's 5x, 5y. Ooh, I might have to go to my calculator, but hey, we did that already. I know that this is going to be 1,135 in that case. And then now, just like we would do before, I'll take my text box, and we would subtract these two away. 5 minus 2 being 3x. And then in here, when we subtract these two, we get a very similar piece of what we would have before. We get 561, very similar to what we actually ended up with over here. So either one of those, perfectly all right to use in there. Let me make it a little bit bigger. And when we kind of already did the work on that, we said, we divide by 3, and we know that the answer is going to be here 187, right? So you can use substitution here, right? That's perfectly fine, or not substitution, excuse me. This is elimination, right? So let's grab that, and we'll say that this is elimination. Or linear combination. That's what we called it last week. The last way that you could do that as well, if you wanted to, let me grab a blank slide here. We could go ahead and do this graphically also, right? We could go ahead and graph these two if you want to also. Now, what I would like you to do, if you do graph that, you don't necessarily have to graph these by hand. We can also, because the numbers are going to be rather large, I'm just going to go on to Desmos and say, oh, let's do x plus y equals 227. And the other one, I believe, was 2x plus 5y equals 574. Right? Better double check that to make sure those are my two equations. And this is why I like to use x's and y's. If you happen to use like a different letter, maybe you used A for adults, S for students, you'd have to change these to x and y in order to get Desmos to graph. Now I've typed these in here and oh man, they don't show up on this graph. They actually do, they're just not showing up here because this only goes from 8 down to -4, -8 to 10. There's not enough space on this graph to show it. So what we do is just kind of zoom out a little ways. Oh, and now I can see my two graphs. I click on here, and there again, x is 187, y is 40. Same thing we were getting before. And so then I could just, take a screenshot of this. In fact, that's what I'm going to do right here. It's nice to include the axes in there as well. Maybe include the equations that I put in. So I'm just going to take a picture of that, and we'll paste it right in there. And there I can see, hey, there's my solution. And we have that. So you have those options. It doesn't matter which one. I don't really care which one you want to use. It doesn't make a difference to me. But if you have any questions, go ahead and email me. Let me know. Otherwise, you guys have the 4 questions down below to go ahead and finish up.